The White House praised the retaliatory airstrikes on sites connected to Iran. Those strikes might have disrupted operations, but are they enough to deter future attacks? Joining us now, General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst. So that is the big question of the night, General Keane. Has this done anything to dampen the Houthis' enthusiasm for attacking U.S. ships and others in the Red Sea and the Gulf?
Well, we'll have to let these play out. We're early into the operation, certainly, and I think we could step up our game here rather significantly with the Houthis because they have tens of thousands of rockets and missiles, but it's finite. Their command and control and their guidance systems are finite as well. And they're going to keep shooting at as long as they have them. And we should have a very sustained campaign. And recognize here, I mean, there's such an obvious connection with the Iranians who are providing intelligence, been well reported and documented, on the ships that are passing, entering the Red Sea, from the east or from the north, and also flagging all of that to the Houthis in terms of what ships to attack and when to expect them, etc. And as a result of that, certainly we should make the connection to the Iranians and bring them into this as part of what we're attempting to do here, is shut the Iranians down. But in terms of the operation that the administration is conducting, we've got to wait, get the battle damage assessment. Let's see how long this campaign is and judge the results of it. I certainly want it to work. In other words, that it will shut down Iran's support for the proxy war that they have expanded in the Middle East with every single one of their proxies. That's what we're trying to really stop here, and hopefully that'll take place. I'm highly skeptical because Iran, who is propagating this, is left out of it. And the criticism, myself and others, of the administration certainly surrounds that basic fact. They believe that if they take any military action whatsoever, even limited military action, we're suggesting. We're not talking about an all-out war strategy where you take down all the major targets in the city of Tehran, the National Command Authority, all of their infrastructure that the American people have seen us do in the past. No one is suggesting anything like that. We're talking about a limited military strike on some of their valuable assets, mostly those that are controlled by the IRGC. And we believe that would have an impact on the Iranians because the threat of more to follow would be what they were concerned about. But the administration, John, has made the fundamental, I think, flawed assumption that if we do anything at all against the Iranians, then that will widen the war and we'll find ourselves in direct conflict with the Iranians. The facts of the history of Iran does not suggest that whatsoever. It is a flawed assumption in my judgment.
I was going to suggest, General, during the Trump administration, we took out their top military leader, General Qasem Soleimani. And, there were all these worries that there was going to be a lot of blowback and Iran was going to start attacking Americans all over the world. It really didn't happen.
No, it didn't. And when Reagan in '88, took out 3 warships, several patrol boats, 2 fighter jets, and 2 oil platforms, that shut them down. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with. Listen, this is something we know for a fact. Iran does not want a war with the United States. Why is that? It would be so stupid on their part because it results in a regime change for them. It results in taking away the #1 thing the mullahs want is to stay in power. So that is job one.
Is that why they are so content to arm the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other groups and have them make trouble?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, they started during the Reagan administration. They blew up our Marine barracks. They blew up our embassy in Lebanon. They blew up the annex when we moved to it. They blew up the embassy in Kuwait, all in 1983. And what did we do as a result of that? We moved our troops out of Lebanon. Now, you can argue and litigate, should they have been there or not? But what did Iran think about that? Check mark. We accomplished what we wanted. So, but the Reagan administration figured it out, that they had to deal with Iran directly. This was a new strategy, using a terror organization in a foreign country to attack the United States on behalf of its sponsor. That we really hadn't seen quite like that in the past. But we adjusted to that. This administration has got to reset its strategy with Iran and just come to grips with the fact that since January of 21, this strategy has failed. They try to renegotiate the deal. It's not working. We got to isolate Iran diplomatically. We got to hammer them with sanctions and shut the flush of money down because of their oil business. The Trump administration showed us how to do that and make certain that the loopholes are covered. Massive cyber attacks to go after their nuclear system and limited attacks against their assets that they value to make certain that they understand more assets will be held at risk as well.
Senator,
and we have got to set a clear message about their nuclear program. No one's talking about it, but they're getting closer to it. And likely, unless we make certain Iran understands that we mean business, there's going to be a fait accompli here, like we had in Korea. All of a sudden, they're going to have nuclear weapons.
That's a scary thought. Very quickly, you heard Senator Cotton, I assume, say that essentially we should go after Iranian leadership, or perhaps he meant Houthi leadership. But going after radar sites and that kind of thing, infrastructure, doesn't necessarily get the job done or send the right message. You agree?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, it seems obvious. We should go after IRGC leaders. Some of them certainly are in the field operating with the proxies, but they're lower-level leaders. Their primary leaders do visit those proxies consequentially to help in operations, but they're staying out of the field right now because, for obvious reasons, the United States is striking.
Yeah.
But we should take their leaders down and take their assets down. The pathway has already been shown for us how to do this.
General Jack Keane, always good to talk to you. Thank you, General.
Yeah, take care, John.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.